This is a workflow to create a virtual tour of a real estate site with the fantastic RICOH THETA X. The camera takes awesome 11K photos and built-in Timeshift to automatically eliminate the photographer from the picture. I'm using a Moman TR-01 desktop tripod with a separate aluminum monopod on top of it. I'm placing the Theta X at roughly eye level, with the lens having the same perspective of a human walking through the building. The camera can be placed in time shift mode from the body of the camera. You do not need a mobile phone. The technique is to press the shutter once and the camera will automatically take 2 pictures. First, stand on one side of the camera with the LCD facing you. Press the shutter button. It'll automatically start taking another picture, and you move over to the other side of the camera and automatically take the other picture. In this situation, the camera takes 2 pictures with 1 shutter button press. The behavior of the camera can be modified. So you can set the delay for either the front or rear lens, as well as whether you want the front lens to take first or the rear lens. I'm using the default settings. The default settings are, it's going to set the first picture to the same side as the screen as the shutter button. The second picture is on the other side of the shutter button. The first delay is 2 seconds and the second delay is 5 seconds. By using this base and monopod technique with the camera, you can quickly have your staff get into a building and take dozens of shots very quickly. You can see here that the workflow is quite fast. The setup time between shots is very minimal. I'm also not using HDR, which would make it a little bit longer workflow, but if you do have bright and light areas, it would be a good setting to put into place. This is using automatic exposure and all other settings except for the time shift. In this workflow, you send your staff to the building, tell them to take 12 pictures, tell them how far to space it out. So maybe you might want them to walk 20 feet,
I think we're good. Thank you.
and then take another picture. With this workflow, I am simply plugging the camera into my laptop computer with a USB cable. On the right-hand side are the files from the camera. On the left-hand side is just a folder on my Windows laptop. So I'm going to select the files from the camera. So you shift click, and then you can click again, and it'll select all the files within a given area. Then I'm just going to drag and drop it into this folder that I'm going to use to build a virtual tour. So with no skill and no prep, the image quality is quite good because the camera is taking it auto settings at 11K. The only thing you need to tell your staff to do is don't tip over the camera. You could theoretically mount weights on the base of the camera. I do have weights, but I'm not using it right now. That might increase the safety of this workflow. And the other thing you need to do is tell them how far to extend the monopod. So if you get a 6-foot monopod, you can just tell them extend all the way. And then you need to tell them how far to walk and possibly how to orient the camera. But you can see that in this workflow, you can set the default scene of the virtual tour for each and every image. I'm using the free site Marzapano again. This is not the easiest workflow, and it's not the recommended workflow. The recommended workflow would be to use a commercial software that is designed for virtual tours or open houses, and there's many of them out there. So you can just search online. We also have lists of these virtual tours. This one is free, which is why I'm using it, because it's accessible to everyone, and you can get started and just test it out for free. You can also go to one of the many vendors, and they commercial software package will have more features, but this will cover the basics. So I just dragged and dropped all the files from my tour onto this web page, and it's automatically uploading it. Then I'm going to each file or each image, I'm clicking on the little pencil and I'm writing the name of the location. This will appear, at least on this software, as a list of contents of the tour. And then within each image, we can then set up links to get to the next image. So similar to Google Street View or most of these virtual tour packages, if you're familiar with it, the person looks at one image first, and then they want to click and link to the next image. After you've loaded up the images and you've set the name, I guess setting the name would be optional. However, I think in most cases, you probably do want to put the name there unless it's you've got some better way to do the navigation. So you can navigate by the name of the image. You can also navigate by the use of these arrows. You can also change the order of how the images appear within your tour. So I'm starting off in the kitchen, and then next to the kitchen is the reception area, and which is right in front of the clock, which is in front of the main conference room. So right from the kitchen area, which is kind of at the front of the office space we're at here. Then the next image over would be outside of the conference room in front of the clock here. And so I'm setting up that link. So there's a link hotspot blue button, which I'm clicking. And then once you select that, you can click on the little pencil and it will change. You can select the next image to go to. And then when you want to go to the actual image, you click on that little icon that looks like a door to go to the next image. On the left-hand pane, you can change the order of these images. It doesn't have to be the same as images you link to in your virtual tour, and you can set more than one link within a single image. So you could have that type of direction where it's going in 4 directions or more if you wanted to set up a more complex tour. This is a pretty basic tour that just shows the workflow of the camera for novice people. If you're just getting started, you want to just use the basics or free software, then you can follow along. I did an attempt to adjust for the fluorescent lighting within the office. So you could give it a little bit more pop if you adjusted the light and brightness of the image at the time you take it or do post-production. There's 0 editing and there was 0 prep for these pictures. It's purely using the automatic settings. So you could get the picture to look a lot better by simply spending literally less than a minute to set the proper fluorescent temperature, for example. After you complete your tour, export it, and it's going to download to your local hard drive or your local disk drive. I'm saving it here to my Windows desktop. And then I'm going to upload it to this site called GitHub, which I'm using for free hosting. I just want to have it on a free site because I don't want to be stuck with a monthly fee, even though it's small at some of these hosting sites. So we can just leave it up forever, basically, here. The workflow here is a bit cumbersome, but if you're not familiar with Git or GitHub, there are a lot of these virtual tour sites up there which you can use. I'm just showing the workflow on GitHub in case a developer wants to put a virtual tour up and then show their boss or their colleagues what might be possible if they did develop an application and start to host a virtual tour themselves on their own cloud platform. After you do the commit on Git, you can then push it up to the site, and the files will now be up on GitHub after this next push. Once they're up in GitHub, you still need to configure GitHub pages if you do want to view your tour on the free GitHub Pages hosting. In the GitHub Pages configuration, it's going to be on the main branch. In the root of the project. So it's main and root. And now the tour is up on GitHub Pages. I fast forwarded a couple of minutes. So you're about 2 minutes in the future here. So it's not going to appear immediately if you do the same demo, if you're following along. But after, you maybe wait 2 to 5 minutes and it should be up by then. Jesse and I only recently moved into this office in Palo Alto. So give the tour a look and let us know what you think about our new office, as well as the tour with the RICOH THETA X. Have a great day.